Hi all, welcome to the workshop. We now have issue 91 of Eaglemoss's Build the Delorean. It's going to be an interesting issue because we are now joining the body to the chassis. So this is issue 91. These are the parts we get. Now there's not a great deal of parts in this, but it's probably one of the most complex magazines to do. Because we're building up the air filter housing, but as well as that, we will be doing a lot more to the rolling chassis of the car, making sure all the wires are in right places, and then eventually we will be adding the main body to the chassis of the car, connecting up all the wires, making sure they're all neat and tidy, and we'll be finally joining the body to the chassis of the car, and again just tidying up one extra cable there. So there's a lot to do with very few parts. So let's see how well we do. As I said, these are the parts. So we've got the air filter housing, we've got some two panels there for the lower part of the car, we've got some stickers, we have two tabs, we have the flux band LEDs, and we have some BP screws, some IP screws, AP screws, KM screws, DM screws, and we have a pipe as well. We're also going to need the pipes we created from the last issue, so I pulled those ones in as well. First thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on the air filter housing. First thing we're going to be doing is taking the filter housing, taking this base plate, that's going to go just on there. We'll be securing those with two BP screws. In there. And one in there. Let's do that. We're next going to be taking this section of the housing and the pipe we created last time. We're going to take this silver pipe and we're going to be placing it into this hole here. It is keyed, so it will only go one way around, and we're going to be securing that with an AP screw. That's in there just like that. We are then going to be taking that part and we're going to be adding it to the piece we assembled just a minute ago, and we're going to be putting two BP screws in these holes here. So what we're going to be doing now is just placing this on top of the engine using these three mounting holes. This pipe here is going to go down between this gap here, between the pipe and the engine block. and that's just going to sit on just like that. We're then going to be using the IP screws to secure that in place. There is a hole on the side of the engine block to allow for that little post on the end of this white pipe to go into it. It's going to be almost impossible to show you on camera. So that's the instruction I show there. So this goes down in between the engine block and the pipe, and then that pipe goes into a little hole within the engine block side. I'm going to finish this bit up by placing this cable on the end of this pin here, just like that. The next thing it's asking us to do is ensure that the red and blue cables run through these little corner notches. Now you can probably notice that I don't have any red and blue cables because I have actually taken them out, mainly because I'm not using the LEDs for the flux bands. I'm going to go with an EL wire mod, which I've created myself. So I've just run some cables through. So these are effectively my blue and red cables, both sides. And this is the corresponding EL wire mod that I've done. And they will just connect onto those cables when it comes to doing that part. That'll be in a future video. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm actually going to be tucking these cables down by the engine bay, and then these cables are going to be tucked out of the way up here. So it's just saying to make sure that these cables are untangled and neatly arranged. It does show them pointing out of the car, but I have a feeling that when we put the body on we might need to have them up and they come out elsewhere. Same with the front ones. Again, make sure they're neat and tidy. This is the front one for the EL wire mod. So this is my front one for the EL wire mod. So this is effectively my red and blue cable. That will still come out the same direction. I've got my EL ballast just tucked in there. That's the transformer for the EL wire. So that's the chassis done. The cables are nicely tidied up. We can move that to one side for a minute. So I've just brought the body of the car over again. We're now going to be placing this cable in, and the way we're going to be running this is the LEDs are going to be coming out of these two holes on the side. The double-ended side is going to be to the right hand side of the car, or sorry, left hand side of the car if you have it the right way up. And we're just going to poke that out through those holes and out through that hole on this side as well. And then this cable is going to run around the front of the car just like that, and these cables are going to be on the same end, on the same side, like that. We would then use one of these black stickers, and we're going to be placing the LED so that it faces towards the front of the car, just like that. And we're going to be placing one of these stickers over the top of it, just like that, so that the LED is safe and protected, and also so that it stays in line with the car. However, I'm not going to be doing that. You'll see at the end of the video probably what my plan is for the EL wire mod that I've got. So I'm just going to pop that one back out, and same with this side, pop that out, and we'll assume that one is now done. So let's put that to one side. You'd also put a bit of tape there to hold that cable out of the way and in place. So that's the only other thing you do. I'll show you the instruction for that one actually. So pop it through the hole, pop the other one through the other hole. The little connector is in the same side as the boot lid connector. Put the tape over the side so that the LED is visible, and then finally a little bit of tape just on the wire in the front of the boot there. But the next job we have to do is connecting the chassis and the body together. So we're going to be moving a lot of cables around, connecting them up, taping them up, and then we're going to be putting the body on the chassis. Just been looking over the instructions. I believe this red and white wire is actually an orange and white wire, because I've just checked all these and we don't have a red and white wire. It says we've got 8 cables. So it says start off with the white wire. So we've got a white one. Then it says to use a red and white wire. We don't have a red and white wire here. Then we have the orange. We then have orange and black. We then have blue and yellow. We then have green and black. And we have green and orange. And the only one not listed there is this orange and white wire. So that's what I'm going to go with. But just match these colours up with the colours in the top of the chassis, top of the body, and you'll be good. The way I'm going to do this is just come here and lay the body on its side. I'm going to lean it against myself, connect these cables together, and then try and tidy up as much as possible, and then we're going to lower the body down onto the chassis. I'm going to start with the green and black cable because it's the shortest one that I've got out here. So just connect that together. As long as you just join all the cables matching the colours, doesn't really matter which order you do that in. So all those cables are now connected together. One thing we do need to do is get this yellow and orange cable, and we're going to be passing it through from underneath the hole just there in the bulkhead. So I'm just going to do that one now. So that is now coming up through that bulkhead. I'm just going to lean that onto the chassis for a minute, because the next thing we're going to be doing is just ensuring that the cable's all wrapped neatly together. And when we lower the body down, we need to ensure that these cables here pop through the hole in the body. I'm just going to grab one of our stickers. It says just to bunch these together and wrap them together. So just wrap those together. Worth noting that I've got a spare green and orange cable here, and that would have been for the flux bands in the top of the car. But again, I'm not using those, so they can be just tucked out one way. Right, ensuring that our orange and yellow cable is still through top of the car, which it is there. We're now going to lift the body in place. Just going to gently rest it on the front there at the moment while I poke the rear cables up. Through that part of the body, because we also have the front cables to connect and the front cables to route. So we have on this side the blue and white cable to connect, and if you don't have a flux band mod, you'll also have the blue and red cables to connect. And these cables, these two cables here, I believe will pop out through the front here. Right, I don't mind telling you that was quite difficult to get the body on. I've had to do it about 2 or 3 times, maybe more, just because there was either one cable or another cable or something that wasn't quite in the right place. One thing I did find though is these seat belts. If you don't want them trapped behind the bulkhead, shut them in the doors. So that'll keep them out of the way. The amount of times that they'd end up behind the bulkhead, and it was just ridiculous. So I trapped them in the doors and they've worked fine. We've got the 3 cables sticking out the back here. We have the 2 cables out the front here. We've joined up the white and blue cable in here for the boot lid. All the cables are joined up in here. When you join them together, make sure that they do stay up inside the vehicle, because I noticed a few times when trying to put it back down, some of the cables are getting trapped where the screw head would go. Now the next challenge we have is we have to flip the entire vehicle over, and we're going to be securing it with some RM screws from the bottom. So let's see how well that goes. This weighs an absolute ton now. Try not to pivot it on the wheels, because you'll probably end up breaking them. And same with the wing mirrors, make sure they're, one, at least they're folded in, and also just be cautious of the wing mirrors that you don't break them off. The other thing to do is ensure that the doors are taped up as well, so that they don't fly open. So all the doors are taped up now. Right, I'm not pivoting it on the wheels, I'm actually lifting the entire car up. Going to try and get this in camera as much as possible. Right, just going to use the paint pot just to support the front of the car. So we're going to be securing it in 8 places. We've got 2 at the back here. We have 2 at the front, just here and here. And we have 2 each side, here and here. We're going to be using the RM screws, and I've decided to opt for a much bigger screwdriver than my usual, so that we can really get some weight behind this. So we've got one in, it's not fully tight. Just giving the body and the chassis a bit of a squeeze to ensure a good fit. I am just looking into the screw holes as well, make sure that they're clear of any wires, certainly around these points here. Obviously this would be a very good time to test all your electrics and make sure that they're all working. I've done it so many times that I'm fairly confident that they all work. So I am going to take the risk and screw this together, because I've also got the power mod as well that I need to check. And that's the body secured onto the chassis. We're going to keep the car upside down because we've got these 2 rear parts to put on. One here and one here. Just like that. And we're using 2 AP screws for that. So that's it for the bottom of the car. We're now going to flip this back over on its wheels. And the last thing it says is to make sure that this wire is pulled out gently. I've already done that in the process of putting the car together. So that is now it. it's worth just double checking with a couple of things. I've had one of the cables in here that go behind the driver's seat, sorry, the passenger seat, come out, so I've just plugged that one back in. I did have one trapped behind, so it's worth just checking that is correct. Now just putting the seatbelt inside the car and shutting that up. I've already done the seatbelt on that one, but again, just double check that your wires are out the back here. Make sure they're also out the front here, and that is the job done. That's what I'm going to be using for the EL wire, and that they will eventually get poked back through the car when I've plugged the EL wire in. But that's now it for issue 91. Well, that's issue 91 done. Now, for very few parts supplied, that was a very difficult issue. I don't know how easy other people have found putting the body on, but I can say it certainly is one of the more difficult parts of the build. If you did like that video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more how the Delorean progresses or anything else that goes on in the workshop, remember to hit that subscribe button and ding that bell. I'll see you around.